The universe, for all its vast and screaming emptiness, has rules. Not laws of physics, those are suggestions waiting to be rewritten by a clever enough mind, but laws of conduct. Codes. Treaties. The Grand Galenic Accord was the oldest and most sacred of them all. For 10,000 standard cycles, it had woven peace among the 100 starfaring species of the Galactic Compact. Its central tenet was simple, brutal, and absolute. Organized large-scale violence between signatory species was forbidden. Not discouraged. Not penalized. Forbidden. The punishment was total societal dissolution by the Accord's enforcers, the austere and unfathomable Vorl. To the species of the Compact, this was logic itself. War was the ultimate failure of intellect, the final ugly recourse of the primitive. The Kthari, with their crystalline logic minds, viewed it as a catastrophic system error. The gentle photosynthetic Lumine, who communicated via pulsed light, saw it as a shadow that choked all growth. The hulking Gr Varn, whose ancestors had once torn continents asunder in tribal rage, had channeled all that ferocity into intricate, non-lethal martial sports. Peace was the pinnacle of civilization. A quiet, static, and utterly boring pinnacle. And then there was Earth. Humanity's application to the Compact was the most contentious in living memory. Our history was a single screaming scar of conflict. We presented ourselves not with a unified planetary culture, but with 1,000 competing ones, our data spools filled with accounts of staggering violence and equally staggering resilience. The Compact debated for years. Some argued we were a plague waiting to be unleashed. Others, a fascinating case study in managed pacification. Ultimately, it was the Vorl who decided. They observed our world, saw our nascent steps into the void, our ragged attempts at global cooperation, and issued their judgment. Humanity would be admitted under a unique and stringent probationary clause, the Pax Terram Inviolatus. The treaty. It forbade humanity from engaging in, preparing for, or even conceptually developing strategies for, interstellar war. Our warship designs were scrubbed from the nets. Our strategic military academies were shuttered and monitored. We were given access to the galactic commons, trade, technology, cultural exchange, but with a bio-coded lock placed on our aggressive potential. We were, in the eyes of the galaxy, declawed, neutered, made safe. They expected us to become docile, to fade into the galactic background, trading mineral ores and quaint planetary art. They expected peace to make us soft. They did not understand that humanity does not have an instinct for war. We have an instinct for conflict. And conflict, when barred from one outlet, simply finds another. Our story crystallizes on Kvash Prime, a Lumine colony world. A garden planet of breathtaking beauty, where continents were vast forests of bioluminescent trees, and the oceans glowed with gentle pulse-philosophizing plankton. The Lumine were master ecologists, but their pace was geological. A project to terraform a minor desert region had been underway for 3 centuries. It was proceeding adequately. Humanity's first major galactic contract was here. Not as warriors, not as engineers, but as terrestrial aesthetic consultants. The Kthari who brokered the deal did so with a flicker of ironic data share. Let the volatile apes play in the dirt. It will keep them occupied. The human team that arrived was not what anyone expected. Led by Dr. Eris Thorne, a woman with eyes the color of weathered slate and a calm that seemed to radiate from her very core, they were a mosaic of disciplines. There was Kaito, a hyperkinetic landscape architect from Kyoto. There was Alara, a somber-looking mycologist from Oslo who spoke to fungal networks. There was Malik, a burly hydrological engineer from Nairobi who could sense water through the soles of his boots. And there was Sam, a lanky, quiet young man introduced as a conflict resolution topologist, a title that made the Lumine's light pulses flicker in confusion. The Lumine Overseer, a being of gentle willow-like stalks named HFY Irene, greeted them with polite, luminous patience. The designated zone is Plateau 7 Beta. The objective is to increase biodiversity sentiment by 12% within the next 50 cycles. Our models suggest incremental introduction of compatible lichen. Dr. Thorne had smiled, a small, knowing thing. Thank you, HFY Irene. We'll begin our initial assessment. What followed was not an assessment. It was an autopsy, a love letter, and a strategic campaign all at once. For 30 days, the humans did not do anything visible. They wandered. Kaito would lie on the ground for hours, charting the path of the sun through the canopy. Elara took minute soil samples, humming to them. Malik mapped not just rivers, but the sigh of groundwater, the tension in the water table. Sam sat on a rock at the zone's highest point, just watching. The compact observers, a Kthari Logic Sentinel and a GR Varn cultural attaché, reported back. Human activity is desultory, unfocused. They exhibit no understanding of scalable ecological manipulation. Project remains behind schedule. The galaxy nodded. As expected. On the 31st day, Dr. Thorne called a meeting with SHI Irene. "We're ready to begin," she said, her voice calm. SHI Irene pulsed a mild yellow. "Begin?" "The planning phase is concluded." "The planning phase is the work," Thorne replied. "The conflict is identified. Now we resolve it." "Conflict? There is no conflict here. This is a garden." "Exactly," said Kaito, his fingers dancing in a holographic plot. "The soil is in conflict with the nutrient runoff from the northern ridge. The water is in conflict with the clay bed, causing periodic mini-droughts here and floods here. The canopy density is in conflict with the understory species, starving them of light. You have 12 distinct ecological factions in a Cold War. No one is winning. Everyone is just surviving." SHI Irene was stunned. The Lumines saw an ecosystem as a chorus. The humans saw it as a parliament of rivals. What happened next was not terraforming. It was not the Lumines' gentle persuasion. It was something else entirely. They called it the Kvash Gambit. But there were no soldiers, no weapons. Only shovels, seeds, mycelial cultures, and an appallingly sophisticated understanding of pressure points. It began with the water. Malik didn't build dams. He built incentive channels. Tiny, carefully sculpted diversions that didn't force the water, but offered it a more appealing path. The water, seeking the least resistance, willingly abandoned its conflict with the clay bed, rehydrating the parched zones and calming the floods. The GR Varn attaché, watching from orbit, felt a strange tremor in his old warrior's heart. It reminded him of the feint before a grapple. Then, Elara introduced her diplomatic envoys. She didn't just plant lichen. She cultivated a specific mycelial network, a fungal mediator, that formed symbiotic bridges between the roots of competing tree species. This network facilitated nutrient exchange, turning a zero-sum game into a mutual benefit. A silent, underground peace treaty, brokered by fungus. The Kthari Logic Sentinel scanned the process and its processors stalled for a full second. It was a non-belligerent pact, enforced by organic infrastructure. Kaito worked on the light. He didn't clear trees. He used precisely placed, growing mirrors made of polished, living leaf to redirect slivers of sunlight to the struggling understory. He called it illumination redistribution. It was a targeted economic stimulus, lifting the poorest members of the ecological society without robbing the rich. And Sam? Sam's job was the most mysterious. He identified key nexus points, a particular rock formation that trapped cold air, a beetle colony that was over-harvesting a key plant. His interventions were minimal, shifting a few rocks to improve airflow, introducing a scent that gently redirected the beetles to a more abundant food source. He called it strategic de-escalation. He was dissolving flashpoints before they could ignite. Within 3 months, the plateau was unrecognizable. Where there had been stagnant, polite survival, there was vibrant, thrashing life. Bioluminescence increased by 300%. New species, previously dormant, erupted into bloom. The biodiversity sentiment didn't increase by 12%. It went off the charts. The Lumine were not just impressed. They were philosophically shaken. Their light pulses swirled with colors of awe and disquiet. They had nurtured. The humans had negotiated. They had taken a conflicted system and orchestrated a brilliant, peaceful resolution where everyone won. The report from the GR Varn attaché to his superiors was a masterpiece of confused admiration. They did not fight the land. They outmaneuvered its problems. They conducted a campaign without a single enemy. I have never seen such aggressive pacifism. Success on Kvash brought more contracts. A GR Varn mining colony on a tectonically unstable moon was next. GR Varn engineering was about brute force containment, gigantic stabilizer rods drilled into the crust, constant, energy-intensive damping fields. It was a war against the moon's core, and they were losing. The human team arrived, led now by Sam, who had found his calling. They spent a month listening to the moon. They mapped stress fractures not as faults, but as grievance lines. They didn't see tectonic plates, but continental factions. Their solution was not to fight the quakes, but to give them an outlet. They designed a planet-wide network of sacrifice chambers, honeycomb structures built at precise points that would absorb and dissipate kinetic energy through controlled, beautiful collapses, channeling the destructive force into harmless light and sound shows. They called it therapeutic seismic release. They turned earthquakes into a planetary art installation. The Giarvarn, who respected strength above all, watched as these soft humans convinced a moon to vent its fury in a way that caused no harm. The Giarvarn foreman, a being named Thok who could bend steel with his hands, looked at Sam with something like reverence. "You have not stopped the war. You have given the warrior a place to scream without hurting anyone. This is a greater strength." Then came the Kthari. Their problem was social, not physical. One of their subsurface data havens, a crystalline city of pure logic, was suffering from a conceptual stagnation. Their problem-solving rates had dropped. Innovation had flatlined. To the Kthari, this was a system failure of existential proportions. They, in their arrogance, asked the humans for help, expecting perhaps some quaint organic decorative patterns to lower stress. The human sent was Dr. Thorne alone. She entered the silent, glittering city, a place of perfect order and profound sterility. She asked one question. Where do your logic minds go to play? The concept of play was alien to the Kthari. Productivity was optimal. Leisure was scheduled efficiency recovery. Thorne requested a small, unused crystal chamber. She did not install anything technological. She brought in wind chimes made of irregular metallic fragments. She installed a fountain where the water flowed in mathematically chaotic patterns. She projected shifting, abstract light on the walls that followed no algorithm. She called it the irrelevance engine. At first, the Kthari avoided it. Then, one curious logic sentinel entered. It observed the chaos, the lack of pattern, the sheer pointlessness of it. And in its perfect logic mind, struggling to find the system, the meaning, it experienced a novel concept, frustration. Then, the fracture of a new idea. From that fracture, a cascade. The Kthari who visited the chamber started solving problems they had been stuck on for cycles. They were not using the chaos. They were using their own mind's rebellion against the chaos to forge new neural pathways. Thorne had weaponized boredom and beauty against intellectual stagnation. She had brokered peace between logic and creativity. The galaxy was abuzz. Humanity was not just solving problems. We were solving categories of problems no one else could see. We were the galaxy's master mediators, master therapists, master peace weavers. Our Pax Turam was not a restriction. It was a forge, hammering our conflict instinct into the most powerful tool for harmony the universe had ever seen. And that is when the Voral came. The austere enforcers of the Accord, their forms shrouded in shifting gray, descended upon the human embassy on the neutral world of concordance. The Voral auditor was a being of terrifying stillness. Its voice was the sound of stone grinding on stone. Humanity. Your activities constitute a violation of the Pax Turam Inviolatus. The galactic community watched, hushed. This was it. The volatile apes had finally overstepped. Their strange, beautiful peace would be seen for what it undoubtedly was, a form of subtle, insidious warfare. The auditor continued. You have engaged in systematic, large-scale conflict resolution. You have employed strategic paradigms identifiable as non-kinetic warfare, target identification, resource allocation, maneuver, decisive engagement with systemic adversaries. You have imposed your will upon ecosystems, geological formations, and even other species' cognitive processes. This is a bypass of the treaty's spirit. Explain why you should not be dissolved. Before the human ambassador could speak, a new voice echoed in the chamber. It was SHI Irene the Lumine, their light pulsing the deep violet of ultimate conviction. Voral auditor. You speak of imposing will. The humans did not impose. They invited. They offered the water a better path. It chose. They offered the trees a partnership. They accepted. They offered the moon a voice. It sang. Thok, the Varn, stepped forward, his massive frame blocking the light. They showed my people that true strength is not in dominating the foe, but in ending the fight so both can stand taller. This is not warfare. It is warfare's antithesis. Then, the Kthari logic sentinel, its crystal body humming. Analysis. Human methodologies utilize conflict resolution protocols of maximum efficiency and zero existential loss. Their victory condition is the absence of a defeated party. This is not a bypass of the treaty. It is its ultimate realization. They have not mastered the art of war. They have mastered the art of making war irrelevant. The Voral auditor was silent for a long, terrifying moment. It then turned its shrouded gaze back to the human ambassador. Your species was admitted because you contained the capacity for great violence. The treaty was meant to suppress it. The human ambassador, an elderly man with kind eyes, finally smiled. It was a smile of infinite understanding. You mistook the symptom for the disease, honored Voral. The violence was never the instinct. The conflict was. The driving need to struggle, to overcome, to face a challenge and solve it. The treaty didn't suppress that. It focused it. It gave us the greatest challenge imaginable. How do you win when winning itself is forbidden? How do you struggle when you cannot fight? He gestured to the view screen, which showed the glowing garden of Kvosh, the stable Varn moon, the data streams of the innovating Kthari. You forbade us the sword. So we learned the suture. You outlawed the siege. So we mastered the handshake. You made victory through annihilation illegal. So we defined victory as creation. The Voral auditor stood immobile. Then, a miracle. A soft, almost melodic sound emanated from it. It was, for the Voral, a laugh. A laugh of profound, universe-shifting realization. Your assessment, the auditor said, the grind of stone now holding a note of warmth, is correct. The Grand Galenic Accord was designed to create peace by removing the tools of war. Humanity has created peace by removing the need for war. You have not violated the treaty. You have fulfilled its deepest longing. The Voral did not dissolve humanity. They issued a new edict, the Terran Addendum. Humanity was appointed as the Galactic Compact's first intercessory species. Our mandate, to go where peace had failed, where silent systemic wars raged, in dying ecologies, in stagnant societies, in the very fabric of hostile planets, and to wage peace. To conduct campaigns of breathtaking ingenuity and compassion. We opened the academies of applied resolution on Mars and Ganymede. Varn brawlers learned hydrological diplomacy. Kthari logicians studied chaotic therapy. Lumine growers learned strategic resource allocation. And humans, we taught everything we knew about turning opposition into cooperation. The galaxy learned our new terminology. They weren't battlefields, they were contested harmonies. Soldiers became resolution specialists. Strategy became sympathy mapping. Victory was no longer a condition, it was a consensual optimum. We never fired a shot. We never raised a blade in anger. But we conquered more than any empire ever had. We conquered despair. We conquered stagnation. We conquered the very idea that for one to prosper, another must suffer. The Compact once feared our capacity for war. Now, they stand in awe of our capacity for peace. A peace that is not passive, not quiet, not static. It is a living, breathing, fighting peace. A peace that rolls up its sleeves, gets into the mud, stares into the heart of the conflict and says, no, there is a better way. Let's find it together. They thought the treaty had chained a monster. Instead, it had unleashed a healer. They forbade us from being warriors of destruction. So we became warriors of creation. Soldiers of solace. Generals of grace. And for the first time, the galaxy understood what it truly meant to be human.